So, question number 1. Have you ever heard the song Keep Your Head Up by Tupac Shakur?
Keep Your Head Up. I have heard of that song, yes.
Okay, and what kind of vibe did you get from that song? Does that make you feel empowered? Does it make you feel hopeful? How does it make you feel?
Yeah, it does. I'm not sure if that's the one that's where he's actually referring to his mother. I might be wrong, but I do recall it's an empowering song. It talks about a lot of the struggles, you know, that we're faced with on a daily basis, particularly those who of, you know, ethnic minorities, really. So it is a very empowering song.
Okay, cool. And how do you think the derogatory use of language and views aimed towards women within hip hop affects the views on black culture as a whole?
The derogatory language used against women in hip hop.
Yeah, so lyrics within hip hop songs.
Yeah. And how it affects.
Yeah, how that will make the rest of the world view black people and black culture.
Well, that's a. I mean, I personally don't like the use of derogatory words used against women, in particular. It opens the door for other people to feel as though it's acceptable to treat women of colour in the same manner. You know, I would much prefer softer language, something that's not so, derogatory. But in terms of music, I mean, I'm not a musician, and musicians like to express how they feel, so each to their own. But personally, I don't like it. I don't think it's a positive reflection. So
okay,
yeah.
And do you think women of colour are seen as less desirable by black men, specifically men within the hip hop scene, based upon the lyrics that a lot of these men air?
Not particularly. Just because a black hip hop artist might use derogatory words towards black women doesn't necessarily mean that they are less desired. I think, if anything, in a double-thoughted kind of way, it shows that there's passion for them to get to that point. I mean, I'm not saying that you need to be abusive towards somebody to show love, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's because of lack of love. That's my view, personally. I think it could be the opposite, to be honest.
Okay, cool. And do you see any possibility of a positive change for the future of hip hop?
Positive change. I really don't know. When I think of hip hop, I do think of, you know, the 80s, the 90s, and the way how music used to be then. It will never be exactly the same, because it changes over time. Music changes, and whether it's positive, I don't know. I just cannot answer that question.
Okay. That's fine. And the final question: what do you think needs to happen in order to raise a generation that will have more respect for women and realise that a lot of these lyrics and views are unacceptable?
You'd have to repeat that question again.
No worries. What do you think needs to happen in order to raise a generation that will have more respect for women and realise that a lot of these lyrics and views are unacceptable? So young people that are constantly exposed to these kind of lyrics and the kind of people that have these views and write these lyrics.
It isn't necessarily so much about the lyrics, but I also think about the contents of the videos, really. we see a lot of visual stuff that are very sexual, and that in itself doesn't really give a lot of respect towards women in general. So yeah, lyrics does play a part, but I also think the visuals and the way how women are portrayed also contributes towards the lack of respect towards women. And I think, you know, reducing that is one way of, I guess, giving some sort of encouragement to the younger generation. Yeah, I guess that's I don't know if that's answered your question.
That is fine. Whatever he says, fine. It's completely fine. Right, and we are